Right. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Save Our Sisters Unplugged podcast. This episode is the first of the Fatherhood series for this year. It started off as a Father's Day edition last year, but as I started interviewing the guys, it was apparent I needed to extend it as a yearly occurrence. The male experience is so important, and yes, ladies, we need to listen to it. Don't roll your eyes and don't come for me. Our esteemed guest is a full-time podcaster, podcasting business consultant, and the host of the top-ranked podcasting business school. He helps frustrated podcasters stop hearing crickets and start making money. Here to share his fatherhood journey, it is my absolute honor to introduce the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Adam Schaeuble. Welcome to the Queen's Domain.
Oh man, Noreen, I'm so excited to enter the Queen's domain. And you and I have our pod pals. We've created content before, and I'm just so excited that you invited me on this platform for this special Father's Day series to talk a little bit from the male and the father's perspective. So very honored, very excited, and I can't wait to just dive on in.
Oh yeah, we're gonna dive in because, like we said, it's almost dinner time, and I've been on this diet and I've been drinking this tea. So I might be ready for some dinner. I might be ready.
All right, we're gonna cook on the podcast first. That's the rule.
Exactly. I've already sent my husband notice like, hey, I'm recording. Do not come in.
Yeah, same.
So, but you know what? You have no idea how grateful I am that you agreed to be a guest on this podcast. Fatherhood is a serious job. And when I'm looking at your Instagram, I see that you incorporate your kids in everything that you're doing. I see Hannah has just had swim lessons, and it just made sense to ask.
Yeah, well, I am a big supporter of dads being more involved and like being somebody that's present and being a husband, being a father, being somebody that is, I feel like the telltale sign of a dad that needs to get more involved is if like his wife it has to go run an errand and he describes his role as, I have to babysit the kids while my wife, I'm like, babysit? You're not you're the dad. Like you're supposed to, like, that's just a part of the deal. You're not the babysitter. You are a caregiver. So those are the type of dads I like to get a hold of and be like, listen, you're approaching this the wrong way. So let's talk some sense into you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, tell us a little bit about your family dynamic. Who's in there? Wife, kids, all of it.
Yeah. So my wife, Marissa, we've been married since 2008. And so we're coming up on the big 15-year anniversary, which is super cool. And my son Henry is a 12-year-old, just finished 6th grade, and my daughter Hannah is an 8-year-old, and she just graduated from 2nd grade. So my wife is a full-time physical therapist, and of course I am a full-time podcaster, but I only work 3 days a week. I'm a big proponent of the shortened work week. I experimented with 4 days last year, and then I moved to 3 days this year, and that allows me to do all the dad things that I want to do.
Exactly. Yeah. You have to work smarter, not harder.
Right.
So what were your initial thoughts about fatherhood?
It was scary, as most people, I assume kind of realize as soon as your first child is born, everything changes because now you're responsible for that little human. I was an overworker. Before we started having kids, I owned a gym and I had 30 employees, and I was working way more than a 40-hour work week, more like a 60-hour work week.
Oh, wow.
And I was nervous about like, how am I going to fit this in with the rest of my life routines? I'm a big routine and process driven person. And the issue when Henry was born was that I didn't clear room to fit all the fatherhood stuff in. I just crammed it in on top of everything else. And that caused problems because now I was just like, oh, I'll just won't sleep and
Right.
not take care of myself to the point where I worked myself into the hospital and I ended up passing out and having to spend some days in the hospital, try to figure out what was going on. They're like, you're just overstressed, overworked, fatigued, and not sleeping enough. So that was my initial foray into parenthood, and that was a big wake up call, and that allowed me to kind of shift my mindset a little bit to start to throttle back and go, okay, if I'm really going to be the dad and the husband that I want to be, I can't do everything. There's only so many hours in the day. I have to clear off some of the business plate to start making room for these things that are way more important.
Right. So you have to find that balance. But you came to terms with that on your own
Yeah.
after the
Yes.
scare.
Yeah. I mean,
Your
yes.
own-ish.
Yeah. I mean, I had a very serious health scare. Trip in the hospital will definitely fix that for you. But yeah, it was something that sometimes we just do need that wake up call where it's like, we just need to be scared into a position of you absolutely have to change things. And you absolutely your life path is going to be much different if you just kind of cover your eyes and hope for the best. And I was like, I'm just lucky that happened early on. And I started to have that realization that I could build upon it. And then honestly, Noreen, I became obsessed with it. I was like, how efficient can I be with my work schedule? The real aha moment for me was when I realized that when you think about compensation as somebody that's self-employed, I realized that my largest form of compensation was my lifestyle and my schedule, and not the money I was able to pay myself. The money that I was able to pay myself set me free to the point where I could live the lifestyle on the schedule that I wanted to live it. So that's when I started working less. And I was like, why do I need to just chase more money to make more money? That doesn't make any sense to me. So it just totally changed the way I think about income and everything. And I was like, wow, what if I could work a 4-day work week and I can take my kids to school and pick them up and cook meals and do workouts and coach the teams and be the only dad in the pickup line and drop off line. And, there are all these school situations where I'm the only dad that is there, or like little volunteer situations or whatever. And it's sad, but I take pride in it too. I'm like, I'm showing up and I'm doing my thing. And, that makes me really proud.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think that there needs to be more fathers that actually really step up and actually be the only dad in those pickup lines. Because let me tell you something, those pickup lines will drive you to drinking.
Yes. Yeah.
And especially when folks don't pull over, they want to, let's say the line is here. They want to stop in the street and let the kids out. And that's so unsafe. I swear I almost lost my mind when I had to pick my granddaughter up from school because the parents would do that. And I'd be like, right when I'm trying to pull out, they would stop. And then there's this little kid just running across in front
Jumping
of my
out.
car.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, this is so unsafe. I called the school. I'm like, dude, you guys have to do something. This is crazy. And I told my son, I was like, I'm not picking Violetta up again. I can't. I'm getting older. My heart is not going to be able to take this. It's too much anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah. We lucked out because Hannah's school is operated, their pickup line is operated like a Chick-fil-A drive-through. It is so organized. There's 2 lanes. They have somebody walking through with their phone, texting ahead on who to get ready to send out. And the 2 cars that pull up, those kids hop in and no one else moves and they go and everybody moves. It is impressive. So yeah, we lucked out there. It's not as scary. Yeah.
Seems like they got the kids as the first priority.
Exactly.
So let me take me back a little bit here. Right when your wife was like, oh my gosh, Adam, we're having this baby. What was your first reaction when she said that?
I mean, I was so excited. I remember it. I 100% remember it. I had just come in from the gym. I was just all sweaty and I sat down at our kitchen table and she had been out on the deck and then she came in and that's when she told me that, we're having a baby. And just amazing, just so excited. And because I have a really good relationship with my dad.
Okay.
And so that got me very excited about the prospect of being a dad and being somebody that brings another human into the world and raises them and helps them become a great person, hopefully. So like I was just excited. I started you get those curiosities of like, wow, next question, is it going to be a boy or is it going to be a girl? And then once you find that out, it's like, I wonder what they're going to sound like. And then I started wondering like, okay, now that they're born, I know like what they look like, what they sound like. They're all healthy and everything, which is awesome. Like what about when we actually can talk to them? What's that going to be like when we can have a little baby conversation? And then now, me and my son are best buds and we talk about stuff and, we laugh and watch games together. And like, it's just super cool. But now I miss the little baby times too. And it was just like cute little Henry bouncing around with his curly hair and saying funny things. So it's nice. You miss every stage that you've already passed, but you still kind of look forward to that next one to where it's like, he's in middle school, he's aiming towards high school. Like, what's that going to be like? And when he's independent and driving around, what's our relationship going to be like then? So I'm very curious about that, but I've enjoyed every step of the way. And the same deal with my daughter. It's a different perspective being a dad of a young lady because I haven't experienced, I was a guy growing up and I was like, oh, I know what being a little boy is like and all that. So it's been a totally different experience for me. And like the outfit situation in the morning and trying to figure all that out, was not prepared for that at all, but it's super cute and awesome. And just different things. And she is so determined and so it's just so impressive. Like you mentioned, she's doing swimming and she's been doing swimming for a couple of weeks and she just picks things up so quickly. And I'm just in awe every time I see her really get into something and then just go after it, learn it, and kind of just start to dominate in whatever it is she decides to do, whether it's art or swimming or aerial silks or hip hop dance silks. Or whatever. She does it all. And she makes friends like none other. She's an even better networker than I am. And we go somewhere for 5 minutes. She's got 3 friends that she's playing with. And she busts out her secret to networking. She has this little bag of like fidgets and these little things that you could spin and do these little poppy bubbles and it's like little, I don't know. They just call them fidgets. It's a bag full of fidget things, like spinny things, colorful things, and it's just like an attractor beam for 8-year-old girls. And so if she's at a basketball game, she gets out the purse, starts playing, boom, friends come. She's like, and now I've got 5 play dates for the next weekend. And it's super.
And you're cute. Like, oh gosh, how can I manage all these? Let me look at the calendar, see if I can schedule like editing and recording around these 5 play dates.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other interesting thing is like they're home with me, and they're not in school during the summer. There's a long 3-month out of school period in Missouri, which I love. And I'm here. So now I've got to figure out, like today, I recorded some episodes in the morning. Then I had to make lunch and get all that taken care of. Then I bounce back in, do another few episodes, and I check back out and make sure they're not just sitting on their iPad the whole day. And, kind of get them going with some crafts. And it was so cute. I walked downstairs and Henry was teaching Hannah how to play chess. I expected them to be like on their iPad, staring at a screen. And that was not the case, which usually it is the case, but they go down there and Henry's just teaching Hannah how to play chess. I was like, that's amazing. Awesome. That is awesome. So proud dad moment. But yeah, we're interweaving the business schedule with the family schedule. So, like popping in and out of interviews like this, making them food, doing workouts, whatever it is we need to do. So that's, there's a lot of pluses to the 3-day work week. One of the minuses may be, on those 3 days that I do work a little bit longer, I have to work a few evening hours just to make it all work out. And I'll take that trade out, but you have to learn how to bob and weave a little bit with the family activities.
Seems like you got this little balancing act, this little work-life balance worked out.
Well, I don't know if I got it worked out, but it's a lot better than it used to be. I'm very happy with it. And I really enjoy my life, my lifestyle, and my schedule. Like I really, truly do. And I miss my kids when they're at school big time. And when I get to go pick them up, I just feel whole again. I'm like, oh, they're back. Cool. And like, I really strive for good relationships, and going to see, Hannah's swim meets, and I coach my son Henry's basketball team, and just being a part of that is a part of me now. And I can't escape that. Like, I don't feel normal if they're not doing their stuff, and doing family
Exactly.
activities. So
I
yeah,
totally
the
get
balance
that.
is there.
Yeah, I totally get that. Because I think I asked God to speed up my kids' aging process so I can sit at those games and watch them do volleyball and track, and God only knows whatever else they were into, cheerlead. Now that part, cheerleading, I wasn't a big fan of that. That was way too loud, and I am not that cheerful. So I didn't get it. I was like, I didn't get it. Why are we yelling again?
That is funny.
But just having that connection where you're running back and forth, and I never complained as a parent. I just did what I needed to do, and I just took them where they needed to go, and dinners were in the car, so you just whip and run, and rip and
Yeah.
run and do what you need to do with them. So
Yeah.
what do you think some of the common challenges new fathers face during the first year of a child's life?
Well, I think obviously, like, adjusting to the schedule of, okay, this is the most important thing in your life now. There's a new thing, and we have to be kind of mindful of the male ego. And that's a thing because, depending how the relationship is with their spouse, like, they may consider themselves to be the most important thing in their life right now.
Right.
So that's a thing. And so making that adjustment, and I think for a lot of guys, it happens naturally, as it should. Like, okay, this switch has been flipped, where now I need to make sure this thing stays alive. I need to make sure it thrives. I need to be a part of all this child rearing and development, and making sure this little human does its thing. So, I mean, I think that's the first thing, is you have to really think about your responsibilities as a dad. And honestly, you have to think about setting your kid up for success, but also setting your partner up for success. Like, your spouse, you have to keep them top of mind. And you can't be one of those dads that's less like, I'll tag in and let me save the day every once in a while or whatever.
Right.
Like, you need to really push to be like a 50-50 partner with your spouse to make sure that you're parenting equally. Like, one of the things, it's almost weird to take pride in it, but I do, but it also kind of irritated me. Like, I remember when, our kids are 4 years apart. So I would go grocery shopping on like a Saturday, and I would have Henry and Hannah with me, and I'd be by myself. And it was almost like I was getting blue ribbon awards from all the moms, like, outstanding.
Yeah.
Like, and all the
You're a
dads are like,
unicorn
how are
now.
you doing this? How can you be out in the wild with a 4-year-old and a newborn at the same time? How do you do it? I'm like, this is this weirdest thing ever, that people are
You're like,
like,
isn't everyone doing
I'm
it?
like this. And I remember, like, some of my clients from my gym, like, they were like female clients. They were just like mind blown that I am a man out at the grocery with a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old, and no problem. Like, I can handle it. And it's just like, as men, we got to step up. Like, if that's an
Yes.
issue, what are you talking about? This is
Yes.
dumb for men to not be able to go to the freaking grocery with two, a toddler and a young kid. Like, we got to be better than that.
Yeah.
And this whole, but I make all the money and blah blah blah, like, that's not the world we live in. That's not the world that we live in
No.
now. And a lot of it has to do with the way we were raised and things like that, the environment we were brought up in, the relationship with our parents. I lucked out because I have a great relationship with both my parents. But yeah, I challenge the men out there to really think about being better in that case, and really wanting to be better, because I've got amazing relationships with my kids. Like I said, that is the thing that completes me, and it makes me who I am. And I love sharing out their stuff and getting them involved in my Instagram or whatever, and like
It's so
showing
cute to
off and
watch.
talking about it, because it's a part of me. Like, I can't
Yeah.
not talk about it. So yeah, that's kind of my challenge out there to newer dads. Like, you have to flip the switch of getting involved and being excited to be involved and to stay involved. And that's not just like, well, I'm going to take a little sabbatical for a couple of weeks and help out my wife as she gets on her feet. And then,
Like, God forbid,
yeah, yeah, it's
let me
ridiculous.
just sacrifice myself, just throw myself on the sword and help my wife, for Pete's
Yeah,
sakes.
yeah. And
So
then it's
what
like,
action steps do you think men can do to support their partners better?
I think communication is huge. And like, we have to, like, my wife and I have, definite roles where we're like, we know we can count on each other, right?
Mhm.
And we can tag in back and forth for extra help as needed, but we communicate about that. So, like, for example, she is the one that is ultra plugged into the school happenings. Like, I know I don't have to really worry about the school schedule as far as like when there is a special event they need to be at and all that. Like, she coordinates all that, and she'll remind me and be like, hey, but I might have to take them, and that's cool too. Like, that's, whoever is available and ready, we coordinate that. Or if we have multiple practices in one day, we figure out like, okay, she's taking Hannah, I'm taking Henry, but we communicate about that. And that's so,
Yeah.
like, communication is the key. And you can't have this expectation of like, my wife takes care of the children and I go and provide. And like we don't live in a hunter-gatherer society anymore where
Yeah.
we have to go out
Like
and
it's
hunt
strict
and
gender roles.
yeah. So like, I think we really need to strive to set the other person up for success. So, and there are little things that we can do. And like, one of my rules is like, I'm home working. Like today, I've been working all day, but I know when my wife comes home, I don't want her to come home to like a messy, cluttery house and kitchen and stuff like that. So I make darn sure that kitchen is cleaned, all the dishes are done and put away. Like, and we've been doing breakfast and lunch and all that stuff. And I'm like, no way in heck am I gonna have her walk home and be like, and now your reward for being done working all day is you get to clean up this giant mess.
And
Uh,
cook dinner.
yeah. So like it's like, I got this. So, I made breakfast, I made lunch, we're gonna do workouts, I'll make dinner tonight, I've got the dishes done. Like, that is just me putting in that extra rep so that she can come home and chill, because she's putting in a full day of work too. And now she's getting ready to take Hannah
Absolutely.
out to swim stuff, and we kind of divide and conquer. So we have to get rid of some of those stereotypes of women do certain things, men do other things. Like, we just got to help each other out. And, if I get extra busy, I know I can tag her in and be like,
Mhm.
hey, can you take care of this and that for me? We know we can count on each other. And that's important.
I love it. And I think that that is such an important point. And essentially, what you're saying is you need to just get off your butt and just be a husband and be a father and be an effective, active, engaged father and partner in this
Yeah.
thing. Because, yeah, it is the two of you. Unfortunately, my situation, it was just me. So when my kids were Hannah and Henry's age, oh, they were washing the dishes like they were bees. They were busy bees. There was a teamwork here. We tagged each other in,
Yeah. Yeah.
but when you have that strong unit, it is so important to really have that communication. And then it sounds like, you're setting her up for success and she's reciprocative of it. And she's doing the same for you. So I really like that. One thing I wanna ask you though, I know that men are wired to protect. So when you first became a father, it was just you and your wife for a while. Then you became a father. How did your mind go like, okay, how am I going to protect my home? Did you have to do anything different to like rewire yourself for that whole protection piece that you men have to do? Because if
Well,
somebody's coming in the house, I'm not the first one to go see who it is.
yeah. I mean, there's definitely, those instincts definitely started to fire for sure. And like, you're looking at people sideways a little bit that are walking down the walking path by my house, or if like something weird's going on in the neighbors or whatever. But, but along these lines, I have to tell a very funny story about when my wife was pregnant with Henry. is speaking about like protection instinct. She got into this zone where she didn't want anything with a corner on it in our house, like tables and anything with like a 90-degree angle. It went to the basement of the garage for a little bit, to the point where I'm just like sitting on a pillow in the middle of the floor and we don't have any important furniture. So yeah, it goes both ways is what I'm saying. But no, like I still fear my children getting hurt in any way. Like Henry, it's probably been 4 years ago now, broke his arm, and just like, I literally feel like I blacked out mentally for a certain period of time where I don't even remember anything about that. Like I just remember him coming in and his arm was all jagged and
Oh, wow.
like he tried to climb over a fence and got tangled at the top and fell over and planted his arm down and just snapped that sucker.
Oh, sounds brutal.
And I mean, that was terrible, but it could have been his neck. It could have been his back, you know. I remember he had a daycare experience. Henry's my rough and tumble kid. You'll learn. We had a daycare experience where I don't know how old he was. He wasn't in kindergarten yet, so he's probably 4 or 5 years old, maybe younger than that, between 3 to 5. And he climbed up on the couch, and there was an open window with a screen in it, and he pushed through the screen and went out the window, a second story, somersaulted, and landed on a climbing dome. And it was a plastic climbing dome. It landed on his back in kind of like a butterfly position, and the climbing dome imploded and basically broke his fall. No, it wasn't hardly even bruised.
My mouth was open. Let me close it.
Yeah. Like stuff like that. I'm like, oh, like it scares the heck out of me. And, you know, if we're talking about, you know, present day, all the shady stuff that's happening in schools now with kids threatening other kids and all that, every single time I drop them off, I'm looking around. Like, I'm like, any shady characters looking out there? Is there somebody like, and when I go to pick them up, same thing. I'm scanning the field outside the school. I'm like, everything looks cool. Like, yeah, that is a thing for sure. And yeah, so that protective instinct is definitely, it's there probably today even more than it was when we first, you know, when we were first born.
Well, yeah, because now you have a girl, so that just changes things.
Yeah.
You know, and I know you fathers, you will roughhouse with your son all day long, but with your daughters, you want to put them on a little pedestal. You want to give them their little wand. They're your little princess.
Yeah.
So being a father of 2 kids of the opposite sex, what do you do differently for your son that you don't do for your daughter?
Honestly, I mean, I think most of the differences right now just have to do with Henry's just older. He's just 4 years older. But I mean, I really feel like we've raised them in a very similar way, just because my wife is a great female, like a powerful, empowered female role model. And we've kind of patterned that with our daughter, and boy, she can run the show. I'm like, Henry is going to be a world famous architect / athlete, and Hannah's going to be the president. Like, I'm like, that's
and a hashtag Hannah for president.
That's the deal. And so, yeah, like we obviously had lessons learned from our first child, and then coming back with the second one, you kind of optimize things a little bit better there. But like, I don't want to treat her like a girl versus a boy or whatever. Like we're doing workouts. She's very competitive with her older brother. So like if he's doing a workout, she wants to do a workout. That's like, oh, if he can jump on this, can I jump too and do the same exercises or whatever. But yeah, like I really feel like, I mean, she's even more involved with sports and everything, even more than Henry was at that age. I mean, she does everything. So super interesting with that. Yeah, like I think it's something we've really put effort into thinking about. Like, okay, we want them to have a very similar experience coming up, and not really be like, and now we're raising her as, in the format of a little girl versus,
Right.
Henry. I just want them to be able to develop and eat healthy and exercise and have healthy minds, healthy bodies, healthy attitudes, and, do good in school. Like, can't ask for anything more.
I hear you. I hear you. And I love that you're really promoting that gender equality and positive attitudes and not treating her like a little princess because she's a girl, because some girls think that is rude.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how much are you guiding their path versus letting them find their own way?
This is a work in progress just because I'm so process system oriented guy where I have to kind of pull back and I set up, I was a gym owner and a fitness facility guy and a strength coach of athletes for a lot of years, for 16 years. So I'll set up workout routines, fitness routines, not only for myself, but for the kids. Like, and it's been a huge advantage for, Henry's really seeing that in his sports now that he's in middle school. He's just way bigger and way stronger than everybody. And Hannah's already pretty naturally strong and athletic, but now that we've added some workouts in, like, that's just going to add rocket fuel to it. But I have to be, thoughtful and mindful of their kids, and they're not, athlete robots. And if we miss a workout, that's okay. And we've got lots and lots of years to invest in their health and in their mindset and everything. So if we're going to go and take a trip to the Lake of the Ozarks for the weekend or something, it's okay to miss a workout and not stress out about it and things like that. Or even like with Henry, he decided he wanted to play football for the first time, and he's mainly just been doing basketball. And so we're like, all right, we have options here. We could kind of go basketball all the way up until football starts and then transition to football. We could do both at the same time. Or the option we ended up going with is basketball is now done and we're gonna have a month of nothing. And then we go into football. So like, this kid is a kid and he needs a month of summer of just being able to go and hang with his buddies and do whatever and not be in an active sport. And when Hannah decided she wanted to do swimming, we're like, all right, we're going to throttle back on all the other things that she was doing: the ice skating, the hip hop dancing, the acro, the aerial silks,
The hip hop dancing.
all this stuff.
I need to see that video.
Oh my God. It's on my Instagram. It's on my Instagram. So yeah, so just, I think that's the main adjustment I've had to make is we can't just cram every day, week and month, full. Like, we got to have a little bit of kid buffer time where
absolutely
let them go play Xbox for a while and let them just chill and watch TV, let them go outside and play around with no like clear objective. So that's a work in progress, but I definitely think we're getting better.
Yeah. And I believe in that too. I actually just leaned into whatever my kids were interested in, and we do that. But yes, it's definitely important for children to just be children because you want them to have those experiences. Those are the things that they're going to share with their children.
Yeah.
You don't want them to just be soccer, basketball, cheerleading, dance, violin practice, repeat.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna just, well, first of all, they're gonna think you're trying to keep them busy because you don't want to spend any time with them.
Yeah.
And we definitely don't want them to really think that.
I agree.
So I want to go back to yourself and your wife and your relationship. How can fathers navigate that changing dynamics of the relationship with their partner after becoming parents? Like, how do you keep this thing going? How do you set aside time for your partner and time for the children? Because we already know the children's a little blockers sometimes, but
yeah. And it's tough. That's one of the hardest obstacles that I think a lot of people face. And I mean, the first thing is both of the parents need to realize that now there's a third person involved in the family dynamic, and that carves out a lot of time. But it is still important to have that communication and to still have time for each other as well. Like, that's something that you have to absolutely make time for. So in typical Adam fashion, I've got this monthly checklist thing that I do where I
That's
actually,
a checklist.
and I don't do it every month, but I try to do it. It's on my checklist every month to just do a one-on-one little like business type meeting with each of the kids individually and my wife, and just kind of check in and go, okay, like with my kids, a lot of times I like to show them like their savings accounts. They get allowance, and I'm like teaching them about money and stuff. I'm like,
Yeah, that's
here's how
good.
much money you have, and here's what you could buy if you wanted to, or if you want to save it, blah, blah, blah. And I'll just check in with them and be like, hey, is there anything I can do as a dad to make your life better right now? Are you happy? We just moved to St. Louis. We moved out of state. So kind of checking in about that a lot. And like, hey, is everything going all right? Do you need to talk about anything? And same thing with my wife. Like we will take time to like review financial stuff and be like, hey, here's where we're at on this and that. But then also just check in, and we try to plan little trips together. One of the best life hacks that I have ever done was I started doing travel rewards points hacking. Like I learned how to, so there's a great podcast called Families Fly Free, the Families Fly Free
Let me write
podcast.
that down.
And it's all about travel points and how to earn them so that you can use those points to pay for all your family vacations. But anyway, on that podcast, I learned how to get the Southwest Airlines Companion Pass. What that means is once you earn the amount of points to get that, you can add a flyer for free for 2 years to any flight that you take on Southwest.
Wow,
So
that's awesome.
I've had that for the last 2 years, and my wife and I have taken little trips where I'm like, hey, for your birthday, let's go down to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and let's, book a hotel and just take a long weekend, and my parents will take care of the kids and stuff like that. So just getting those little mini honeymoon escapes to kind of just get away and do our thing a little bit, and not
Fort
just.
Lauderdale is a great place to do that. I went there last
Yeah.
year for my birthday. It was awesome. I mean, our hotel, I think it was like a Hilton brand hotel, and the marina was right there. So we saw the bridge open and close. That was so amazing to me. I have a video of it. I've never seen where the bridge is open for the boats.
Yeah.
I
It's beautiful. It's really cool.
was just so amazed by it. Every time that thing opened, I was on the balcony, like looking at it like a big retard. Like I was, as your word, I was nerding out on it.
Yeah. It's super cool. It's a great town, and we got great weather down there. So yeah, little escapes like that. That's really important to be able to do that and take some time just for us.
Yeah, that's important because even though you have children, you still have to remain connected as a husband and a wife.
Yeah.
A lot of people really get lost in that, or they don't know how to navigate that space. And so now they become disconnected, or sometimes the mother goes towards the children, and that's how men get on the back burner, and you have all these issues. And it's like you have to really, as a couple, sit down and say, listen, this is how we need to navigate this in order for us to stay connected, because nobody wants to get divorced.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
And that's so harmful for the kids, especially when you always put your kids first. That would be a great conversation to have.
Yeah.
So how can fathers, what are some ways fathers can like foster healthy and positive self-image in their children, like body positivity and just positive self-talk? How do you pour into your kids in that way?
Well, I think a roundabout way of laying that foundation is teaching them how to take pride in like doing the right thing with their own health, and like making like good, healthy choices early on, and like taking pride in that, because that's going to lead to self-confidence, body image positivity, like all that stuff. If we can teach them good habits right from the start. Like I have this conversation with my son all the time. Like I've been doing 2 to 3 workouts a week with him since he's in 3rd grade. And now he just graduated 6th grade. And there's a quote that I love that goes something along the lines of easy choices, hard life, hard choices, easy life. So basically, if you make harder choices, you're going to have an easier life. And I told him, I'm like, listen, working out 3 days a week, 4 days a week with dad right now. These are hard workouts. That's a hard choice. You could be playing Xbox. You could be messing around on your iPad or whatever. but this is going to lead to an easier life down the road. You're going to be healthier. You're going to have better overall confidence. You are going to be strong and fit. And and this is something that you're going to be able to carry on whether you play a sport or not. Like if you get a scholarship, great, huge bonus. That's awesome. If you get invited to be on sports teams and things like that, huge bonus, awesome. But you just living long, being healthy and feeling good in your own skin for as long as possible, that's one of the greatest gifts I can give them. So we're laying that foundation now. So that's, we eat healthy. We talk about what we're eating, why we're doing it. I coach his basketball team, and now some of the players are coming over to our house to do some workouts, and I try to teach them about food. And it's so funny, their mindset around food and just like how jacked up like their taste buds are, because they just drink sugary drinks all day. And I'll make something that's like a treat for Henry, and then I'll make it for them, and they're like, this is terrible, it's not sweet enough. And he's like, Dad, I think it tastes great, but he's not, drinking sugary drinks all day long. The other day,
that's true.
So one of the last days of school, Hannah comes home and she's like, Dad, I had this drink today, and I can't remember what its name is. It started with a K, but it was the best thing ever. I go, Kool-Aid? And she's like, yes.
Oh my gosh.
She just graduated 2nd grade and she's never had Kool-Aid before. So I'm like, parenting win.
Yes.
This because she just drinks water. We just drink water, and that's what we drink.
Yeah,
and
water, milk, and juice. That's all I used to serve up.
So the fact that they think like Diet Coke is gross and Kool-Aid is like a crazy treat that they've never had. I'm like, we're ahead of the ball game here. But I just think that teaching them to invest in themselves and taking pride in that investment. And like the next step of my son is really, he's going to be a teenager in December. He turns 13, and really diving more into like personal growth stuff. And, like I read the Daily Stoic every single day, and they're like, I'm going to start reading that with him and kind of discussing it and just talking about life principles. I think that he's ready for that. So
what about the talk?
Well, that's already happened. That for
what,
sure.
Already?
Oh, like 2 years ago. Like we had to, because he looks much older than he is. So
the girls are coming for him.
He's 12. He's almost 6 foot tall, and he's 165 pounds. Like
that sounds about my son. He was in a size 14 shoe at 14 at 6'2". He's 6'5" now.
Yeah. So it's just like, we had to be ahead of the curve on all that stuff.
By the way,
this is gonna be happening, and boy, oh boy, it is. So so we're ahead on that one, but that's part of the deal. Got to step up and do that sort of thing.
Absolutely. And it sounds like you have a good balance with your kids. You don't do one with the other that you don't do. Like you're wholly equal. You have this balance with your wife, Hannah, Henry, and then you have your own podcasting life. And it sounds like they're great kids. Like they sound like they don't make waves at all. But I know there's going to be that moment where, or I'm sure it's already happened. I mean, they're clearing, puberty at least ish.
Yeah.
So what are some strategies that you use for handling discipline and setting boundaries as a father? Because I know a lot of women, well, I grew up in an era where mom said, wait till your dad gets home.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely in the role of like, I will lay down the law a little bit faster. My wife's a little more forgiving with the kids and giving them a second chance. And, and it's the same way that I coach basketball. It's like, so we had a practice last night, and I had a couple of kids kind of get mouthy with me. And I was like, listen, I just wanted them to kind of like hustle a little bit faster. I was like, we can hustle or we can run. We got 2 options. And
it's all about choices.
Then a kid made the wrong choice. I said, looks like we're going to do some running. And so I'm just direct with them, and I'll tell them why they're in trouble. So, Henry's a 12-year-old boy, and he's very curious, and just like sometimes his curiosity gets him in trouble. And I'll explain to him, like he got in trouble at school. He's a straight A student. Okay, first of all, But during the middle of the school year, we get this email that just says your son has after school detention next Friday. And I'm like, what? And like, he's never been in trouble before.
Right.
And curiosity gets him in trouble, but also he's a bit like dad, and he likes to be silly, and he likes to make people laugh, which, I know. Yeah, I love doing that. That's one of my favorite things to do, is make people smile, make people laugh. But that's gotten me in trouble sometimes.
Well,
So he was kind of messing around with some other kid's Chromebook or whatever. And the teacher had put a warning out. We don't mess with other people's Chromebooks. He did it. He was the next person. Boom, after school detention. So, I was just straight up with him, and I explained to him, I'm like, all right, you're a new kid in town, a new kid at this school. We can't get a bad reputation with the teachers. So I have to lay down punishment. So I'm like, we're going to go X amount of weeks without iPad, YouTube, or Xbox. And with good behavior, you'll be able to earn that back. And I'm like, me and mom are obviously disappointed that you got in this situation and that you got this detention, but, we still love you, and we, it could be a lot worse. And we're still super proud of the overall kid that you are. And you're 12 years old, and you're going to screw things up. And I'd rather you screw things up like this than like, be an axe murderer or something like that. Like, there's a lot worse that you could be. So,
yeah,
we just explain things, and we're direct with the punishment. And that way it's not like there's not a debate about the punishment. It's like, it is what it is. Me and my wife get on the same page about it. And if we're going to start to kind of like give him his YouTube back or whatever, like there was a period of time that he couldn't watch YouTube for a couple of years because we felt like it was affecting his behavior negatively. Same thing with our daughter, Hannah. Well, we start taking away things and that they really value that we think may be a little bit of a negative influence. So they've got to earn that back. And then now they know, like, okay, I had to work to earn this privilege of being able to watch YouTube on my iPad or whatever. And, and the other cool thing, like, that we've done that is just help create the young people that they are, is we give them allowance, but we also have them do things where they can earn more money. And like, they bought their own iPads, like they paid for their own iPads.
That's
and
good.
They really take good care of those things. They understand if they break it, they've got to pay to fix it. And, that's coming out of their money that they're earning. So little life lessons like that. I don't know. It seems to open up a different communication channel where you can have these like somewhat adult conversations with kids where I feel like it's just clarity. A lot of parents lay down discipline or do whatever, and they're all just upset. It's just this like out of pure anger. And they're like, you can't play with this friend ever again, or whatever. And it's just, I feel like I try to explain the situation, why we're in it, what the punishment is, why it is what it is, answer any questions. And then, you do the crime, you serve, you do the time or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that's the deal.
Actions have consequences.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do they give any type of pushback anytime?
My daughter a little more so than my son.
I knew you were going to say that.
Because the tears start to flow, and,
no.
the whole thing.
And then you got to tag your wife in for that when the tears start coming.
Yeah. Yep. She breaks me down pretty good. So yeah, but that, we tag team that situation, and she's just younger. And so like, when we took her, and we took her YouTube away, like that was a pretty traumatic thing. But she's resilient, and that's why we do things the way that we do. And we don't give in and go, oh, okay, never mind. You can have your YouTube. It's okay.
What is she doing on YouTube?
She just likes to watch. Honestly, she will sit all day, and if she could, and watch crafting videos on YouTube and create art and just mimic what they're drawing. And she makes slime, and she just likes to watch these videos where they're creating things with their hands. She's very like tactile. She's a really good artist. Like, she won some stuff at the local fair, representing her school and all this stuff. So, it's not just sitting there watching Mr. Beast videos, although she'll do that too. But that's mainly where she spends a lot of time, is just looking at these kids doing art and crafts, and just tries to do what they're doing.
That's cool. Yeah, my granddaughter is Hannah's age, and she goes on there and she just makes her videos and she talks about her day. And I'm like, I asked my son, I'm like, did you know she was on here making these videos? And then I'm now, now, even though I'm like Mimi, I'm looking at him like, well, who's commenting on these videos?
Yeah.
Like now my binoculars are on. I'm like,
Yeah. You
everybody's
have
side.
to.
And I'm like, because it's so scary to think that your kids are on the internet because, there's so much on there that
Yeah.
can pull them in, and suck them in.
Yeah.
There's so many shows out here where adults are dressing up like children so they can catch all these crazy child predators. And, you just have to really be on the grind with that and have your parental controls in place, or else you
Yeah.
can just lose your kid on the internet.
Yeah. I agree.
Now, I know that being a father, it's a big job. And a lot of people, they think that you guys do less than the women do, because sometimes we do make the world turns. We are the cook, the baker, the candlestick maker, and then you guys go to work, which we know is not the case, because in your relationship, it seems like it's a very equal balance. So what are some practical tips that fathers can do to take care of their own physical and mental health while raising a family, and being a husband?
Well, I mean, I think having some time carved out of their regular schedule to fill up their own cup, like to take care of ourselves and not be ashamed about that either. Like whether that means going to the gym and getting a workout in, meditating, doing healthy meal prep, meeting with friends, seeing a therapist, like any of that stuff, like do what you need to do to get yourself right. Because if you don't have yourself right, you can't be a good husband, you can't be a good father.
I
And
agree.
yeah, so like when I first started throttling back my work hours, it was suggested to me to not do that time pullback on the weekends. So the first thing you want to do is pull back a day during the work week so that your wife has gone to work, your kids are gone to school, and you can just do what you need to do for that half day or day that you're taking off. And I started taking Thursdays off. I was like, all right, everybody's gone and I can go and do what I need to do to get myself right and kind of invest in me. And then I was good to invest in everybody else the rest of the time. So having those little blocks where, like I don't work Fridays and Mondays. So, when the kids are gone, my wife's gone, I can, work on my yard and I can get my own house in order and I can work out and I can do all the stuff that I need to do that I like to nerd out on and learn about or whatever. I'm learning how to do like basic home repair, which has been a complete disaster. I can't epic fail. But I'm learning and I like learning. I'm a lifelong learner. I love to find a target and go, how can I get better at that? And learn about it through podcasts or YouTube videos or whatever. Or if I have to pay somebody to teach me, I will. But I feel like doing that first is going to help us to help our wives, to help our children, and making that a priority. So that's something that's very important to me. And then just being really strategic, like I said, with the relationship with my wife, with my kids, and making sure that I take time to kind of check in and see how they're doing and see if there's something that I could do for them that would improve their situation. Like I feel like if dads can do that and men can just do these little personal check-ins, but check in with their spouse, check in with their kids, that's a great start. Does that opens up the communication channel. And then we'll do a family, again, not as often. I like to do a monthly, but sometimes it's like every other month. We'll do a family check-in too. It's like, all right, family meeting. Sometimes the kids will call them. They're like, especially Hannah, she likes to be in charge with stuff like that. She's like,
Family meeting.
Family meeting on this. Henry is in my room and he is putting his head on my rainbow pillow and I do not like this. So we'll
Probably
have
has a checklist, doesn't she?
opening statement by Hannah. And then we just kind of unpack it from there. But no, it's awesome.
I love it. And I see that you take Hannah with you on some of your podcasting trips. Tell us a little bit about first of all, tell us a little bit about your podcasting business school. Why did you even start it?
Well, podcasting business school evolved from my health podcast. So I owned a gym for 16 years. And then during that time, I launched my first podcast in 2015, which was a weight loss podcast. And I started eventually to see some monetization success. where I was creating memberships and doing paid challenges, and started to do pretty good with it. And other health podcasters started to ask me to help them. They're like, hey, can you help me do what you're doing with your show and with your brand with monetization? So I started getting paid to consult for these other health brands. And that really sparked my passion for just doing that, just teaching people how to create a business or grow a business via building podcasts. And so that's where Podcasting Business School came in. And now it's the only thing that I do. And so that's the main purpose of my show is to help people kind of press the fast forward button on being able to leverage podcasting to work less, earn more money, and grow and build their brand. So that's the unique power of leveraging an international media company like it. That's the way I view when somebody starts a podcast. So Noreen, you have listeners all over the place, and it's something that's like the potential is infinite with your growth and exposure for this brand. So I love to teach people how to leverage that and do something pretty special career-wise.
Yeah. And I've just been learning about Podfest. I think when I was on your Around the Pod, I learned a lot about that. And I met some great people. I met Paula, I met Amanda, Dr. Amanda, excuse me, let me give her her flowers. And got to collaboration with those two ladies. And I saw you at Podfest, but I saw Hannah there too. So it's kind of like you can blend your family and your work life with this podcast as well.
Yeah. And that was just an opportunity. I always look for that. And I go, okay, I'm going to Podfest. It's in Orlando. And every year for Christmas, Hannah asks for a trip to Disney World every year. And she's already been once. I was like, okay. So this year I'm like, all right, at Christmas time, Podfest is in January. I'm like, we're going to put this present together with a Minnie Mouse t-shirt. And my wife bought her like these Minnie Mouse necklace and backpack and all this like Disney themed stuff. And inside the backpack, it had a note from me that said, will you go to Disney World with me? Check yes or no. And she's like, yes. And so she got that as part of her Christmas gift, and she got to go to Disney World. So I was like, yeah, let's take her. And we did, we flew in, and it was her second time ever flying in an airplane. So very, very excited about that. And just a daddy-daughter trip. We did Disney World the first day. We did Podfest the second day, and then flew back home so she could go to school on Monday. So, but it was awesome. And she's riding roller coasters, and it was cute. All excitement, 100% fired up, and then as we ride like the Disneyland ferry across, and then we're waiting in line where like the security is, and you check all your stuff, some tears started to flow. She's like, I wish mommy was here.
Oh no.
And I was like, it's okay. I'm like,
we can come back.
Let's get her to Mickey and Minnie ASAP. And that fixed everything. And we had a blast. So it was all cool.
And I really love watching those videos of her on the, was it the what do you call that thing? The roller coaster?
Yeah.
I can't. That's way too much movement for me. I cannot do that. I think the only thing I can do right now is Ferris wheel.
Yeah. I had to step it up. The roller coasters aren't my friend, but when you got your 8-year-old daughter there going, Dad, I just want to ride the Thunder Railroad. And I'm like, all right, Thunder Mountain Railroad it is. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, Adam, I am really enjoying this conversation. So before we close, I normally ask what advice you would give to new fathers about fatherhood, but you've dropped so many nuggets in there. There's nothing to ask. So I'm going to flip the script. What advice can you give to mothers about letting fathers be involved in their children's lives?
This is a good question. Okay. So let me put something out there, because I just, in my experience with my wife, something very interesting happened. When Marissa was pregnant with Henry, she came to me crying one night, and she was like, I'm just worried that I'm not going to be a good mom.
Oh.
And so and that was like, she's the ultimate example of an amazing mom. It's like, it's like just in the textbook under good mom, like there's a definition of my wife. And so if you are feeling that as a mom to be, just know that you're going to be fine. Like, you are genetically wired to excel at this job that you're about to take on. Now, when it comes to getting the father involved, like, if they're not self-motivated, if they're, and they may not be able to help it. Like, I don't make excuses for guys, but maybe they just grew up a certain way and they haven't been shook loose of that. Let's shake them loose. Yeah. Let's let them know, like, hey, like, there needs to be open communication before the baby makes their big appearance of, and maybe even before you start trying to get pregnant, and like have communication, like, listen, this is a team job. You're going to take 2, maybe 3 kids to the grocery at once, and you're going to be okay with it, and you're going to handle it. And I can train you if I need to, but you, by God, you will be able to do things like that. You will change diapers. You will bottle feed. You will walk the kid around that little Bjorn thing, that pouch thing. You know, I was doing that all the time. I remember I'm answering emails, and Henry wouldn't fall asleep unless he was in that pouch thing facing out. Gosh. And if I sat down, he'd wake
facing
up.
Facing out.
Yeah. And so he's like hanging there, you know, and so that's what I did. And like, you just got to get your guy in line with the job at hand, but start to communicate about how each of you is going to kind of peel away from your individual stuff and put some of that energy into the new life that you're creating or have created. And you're going to do this job together. So just kind of get on the same page, have that conversation, and be clear, upfront, and honest, and start with what you're going to do. Like, in life and in business, I always like value add first, you know, lead with how I'm going to take action before I make an ask. So that would be my advice, because that'll, you know, if you got to deal with somebody with a pretty strong male ego, that'll definitely soften the blow a little bit when you're like, and here's what I'm going to be doing to make sure that I'm taking time, you know, to invest in our child and in our relationship. And that's going to be important too. So it's not just about what are we going to give up to, you know, invest in the kid.
Right.
Talk about what's important in your connection and how that needs to maintain and stay solid as well. So that they're like, all right, cool. Like, this is still a thing. It's not just all about the kid now. So I think that's a strategy that I would take. And I don't know if it's actually going to work or not, but you know, that's what I would put out there.
As long as you have 2 people that are willing to try, it can work, you know. And I think women also need to, I think both partners also need to re-examine the backgrounds and the back history of what their partner's childhood was like, and the relationships that they have with their parents, and what is normal for them. And really have those tough conversations before you even try to make the baby, because those differences matters. You have to be on one accord when you're parenting children. So Adam, where can people find you on your social platforms?
Yeah. On Instagram, that's where I hang out, at Podcasting Business School. And my website's podcastingbusiness.school. And my show, you can listen anywhere you enjoy audio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you jam on podcasts. Just search Podcasting Business School and I'll pop up, and you can enjoy my podcasting tips every Tuesday and Friday.
Oh, I definitely enjoy them, and I jot stuff down, and you know, I read your emails. You know, I'm still in corporate America, so when I'm reading stuff, I'm like, okay, let me take a 5-minute break and look at my phone. Let's see what Adam's doing today. What, you know, when the email is lovingly curated.
Yep, that's right. That's how I do it. Yep, real time. That's how I roll.
Yep. Well, Adam, thank you so much. I think this was such a lovely conversation. It was so refreshing to hear the male perspective. And I think you have dropped gems for both the men and the women. I mean, you have touched on every area. You've touched on the relationship with your son, your daughter, the wife separately, your relationship with yourself, because self-care equals great mental health. And the gems you dropped about your podcast and just incorporating your work-life balance. I love it. You've touched everything. You just I knew he was going to do it a good job. But
Well,
anyway, I was not nervous at all.
well, I appreciate you inviting me to share your platform. That's always an honor. And honestly, I was really excited for this one because I don't get to talk about fatherhood and being a dad and my approach to that whole area of my life. I don't know if I've ever had a deep dive like this on that topic that I love so much. So this was
Mhm.
a unique opportunity to get on here and have a great conversation with a friend and somebody that's, somebody that I like to collaborate with. So this was a great opportunity for me. I appreciate you and for everybody out there in the audience. Hopefully this served you. And if it did, go on there and give Noreen a big old 5-star on the Apple Podcasts and shout her out and mention this episode and be like, that guy Adam, he said something smart that one time, and maybe that's your comment. I don't
That
know.
one time. Oh my gosh. Yes. Thank you so much. Yes. 5-star ratings are nice. Reviews are nice. You know, I would be able to use my speak pipe,
There you go.
which I learned from you. See, I've been
That's right.
listening.
That's right. You're an implementer.
All right. Well, thank you again for holding space with me, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Peace and blessings.
Awesome.
Oh man, that
That was
was
good.